Hey Buns, today I want to answer a question you might have asked yourself if you've ever been healed by me in the Duty Finder, which is Final Fantasy XIV soloable? Can you avoid other players in this massively multiplayer online game? And the answer to that is, well, yes, kinda, but actually no. There's plenty of stuff that you can do solo in Final Fantasy XIV now, and Yoshi P, director-producer of the game, said that one of his main goals for the future of 14 is to make the entire story experience fully soloable. He said that he's tired of hearing people say, yeah, I've played every Final Fantasy game except for the MMOs. Like, actually, I think if you say that in a mirror 3 times, a Final Fantasy XIV player will appear and tell you to download the free trial. But then they vanish before telling you how to actually buy or download the game. Of course, yeah, mainline Final Fantasy titles are traditionally solo games. And while some people come to Final Fantasy XIV because they heard it's a really good MMO, like I did, there's other people that came or would consider it because they heard it's a good Final Fantasy game. And I think both of those reasons are valid. I think it makes sense and is natural for 14 to try to accommodate more of those traditional FF fans. And they might find that they like some of the MMO aspects of the game after all, once they get their foot in the door. In the same way I found I like the Final Fantasy aspects. Still, even if the story manages to become fully soloable, Yoshi said that some people will still never ever play because of the sub fee and the online requirement. But since those things are not going away, at the very least, they can try to attract more people by just making it more accommodating to people who want to play alone through the story, those single player RPG fans. And I do get how making the game more soloable is appealing and necessary because I worked in food service and in retail. I know what it's like to come home feeling like the last thing you want to deal with is somebody telling you to go faster or to do things their way. Like sometimes the guarantee of 0 expectations from other people is the most comforting thought imaginable. Even if you know this community is great and kind and welcoming, you don't even want a 1% chance of running into some bastard. So even in single player, you will meet Nero. Of course, some people will say to that, well then don't play an MMO. Go play something else. Devs shouldn't make soloing easier because in an MMO, everyone should be forced into group content. But I personally think that social interactions are better when they're not forced, when it's something you actually want to do by choice, you're in the mood for doing it. And again, keeping in mind that the only thing they want to make more soloable is the story, I don't know who is out here thinking that story dungeons that you queue for with randoms in the Duty Finder is the height of the MMO social experience. Like, you do not see a hide or tail of most of these people ever again, and you'll probably only hear like hi at the start and GG at the end. Like, it is barely discernible from running the exact same thing with a squadron or with NPCs or Trust, who might actually have more to say. And I'm not saying that fun cannot ever be had with randoms, but I just don't see Duty Finder as a core and mandatory part of the rich social tapestry of Final Fantasy XIV. I think some of this blowback against solo options to do story dungeons and story trials comes from a fear that it will somehow come at the expense of the social experience. But I really do not think that that is the case. I think it's going to get new people to play who would have never even considered it before. People who would have never touched the game before because they saw, oh, that's multiplayer, it's MMO, I have to deal with other people. I will not. Like, there's some people that are like that. It's almost like when Burger King introduced the Impossible Whopper and the CEO said that they were not seeing their usual guests swap out their normal Whopper for the Impossible Whopper. But what they were seeing was new guests coming in that never ate at Burger King before. It was attracting new people who would have never even considered eating there without the new option. It's just so, I feel like it's similar in this way that it's not excluding, it's not changing what people are already wanting to do. It's just a new way to go about it. It's widening the door. It's broadening the appeal. It's throwing wide the gates. And I mean, really, most of the story leveling experience on your first playthrough is already solo. You're watching cutscenes, you're doing quests, like that is all you. And so it's already mostly like that for your first playthrough. The only thing they want to make soloable is that occasional group dungeon or trial that pops up in the MSQ, but there is and always will be stuff in the game that only groups can do, like the current raids, like PvP, and anything that you do with a group will be faster and more efficient with a group of real players, unless one of those players is me. We've already begun to see the soloization of Policy 14 begin. With patch 6.1, we got duty support, aka trust, added to Realm Reborn patch 2.0 main story quest, which makes all of that content fully soloable. So if you use this system, the game will provide you with some AI bots to go with you through the story dungeons. And Yoshi did say that throughout the time frame of 6.1 to 6.5, the team will gradually be adding trust compatibility to all main dungeons and 4-player trials, and 8-player trials from the main story quest will get support as well, but this will likely either happen in 7.0 or in that, next expansion's patches, which is pretty huge. Like, you will not have to deal with other people if you are not in the mood for it. Like, it's going to let you practice your job, and in a totally stress-free environment, which is one of the big draws for trust as it stands even now. I do think a fun thing they could add to duty support would be a way to customize the look of the AI that go in there with you, or better yet, let you bring your retainers in there with you, since you've already customized how they look and they're already working for you, so it makes sense. And I'm not just saying that as a way to guarantee I can always have 3 bunny boys in my party every time my dungeon runs. Of course, even with duty support, the game still incentivizes you to cooperate with other players to do the dungeons because, like I said before, it is always faster to do the dungeons with real players who will do more damage, which is great because it is an MMO after all, and it's a way to keep the duty finder populated. So the AI bots won't turk our gerbs. That said, a trust dungeon can take between 22 and 35 minutes depending on your role, on your skill with your job, on your gear, and importantly, figuring out how much the AI can actually handle. One thing that a lot of people don't know about trust, and that I learned recently, is that each dungeon is sort of like a puzzle in a sense, trying to figure out how much the trust can handle before they get overwhelmed, like how big you can make the pulls, for example. As for the story dungeons that are not currently accessible through duty support or trust and do require a party, they are meant to be fairly easy and forgiving of mistakes. So if you happen to reach a dungeon that doesn't have duty support, don't be afraid to just go in there with randoms or with friends. Though one good thing about randomly matched parties is that other people will not know that you make the exact same mistake every single time. This is my first time here. I had no idea. There's plenty of other solo content that you can occupy yourself with in the game right now, like doing side quests, doing beast tribe quests, crafting and gathering, fate soloing, like I like to do on Warrior, which is pretty easy to farm up bicolor gemstones, which you can use to spend on all kinds of prizes like mounts, minions, and stuff. Gold saucer mini games, there's the sightseeing log, there's housing decorating if you're lucky enough to get a house, all of that soloing old dungeons and trials, and raids for glamour, minions, orchestra rolls, mounts. Like, I am pretty sure that all of Realm Reborn and Heaven's Word are soloable at max level. Stormblood, though, I think some of the extreme trials are possible to do solo, but if you're going for the mounts in Stormblood or beyond, it's going to be much, much easier and faster to farm that out in an unsynced party finder group. So honestly, those are some of the chillest groups of people that you can find in the game. And it's a pretty good way to meet people and make some friends, actually. So you won't need any of this advice anymore. You can bond lusting over Lakshmi's bosom or Snake Daddy's Rathalos is soloable, by the way. It's pretty tough, but on a job with high burst, like Machinist or even Warrior, it's absolutely can be done. So that's something to think about. And they will be adding Island Sanctuary soon, which you will be able to enjoy solo. Rumor has it that it is inspired by Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley. We don't know a ton about it yet, but in the Endwalker Media Tour, Yoshi said that it would involve having your minions running around, doing some gardening, maybe even placing some buildings here and there, so it could have a housing element. I would stay tuned to this channel because rest assured, I will be sharing more information about it as soon as we know. There's been a question of, will we be breeding on this island? Breeding our pets. I mean, let's clarify. Breeding is already happening in Limsa. Of course, you can also go for the crowning solo achievement, the one that towers over all others. I'm talking, of course, about Necromancer. That is the title from clearing Palace of the Dead solo, and that is extremely difficult to do and will absolutely identify you as a Giga Chat. Yes, there is also Lonely Hero, the title for doing the same thing in Heaven on High, but it just doesn't quite pack the same. Like, it is impressive, don't get me wrong. But Lonely Hero, I think, is less of a status symbol than Necromancer, because for Necromancer, it is 200 floors that you have to do by yourself with extremely little room for any mistakes. Necromancer is one of the most difficult achievements in the entire game. Like, it is right up there with an ultimate raid clear. And I know other people that have cleared ultimate and had managed to get Necromancer, and they said that it was harder to get Necromancer than to clear some of the ultimate fights that are in the game. And I think you can make an argument for that, because that in some ways it is harder than an ultimate, because there is no one there with you to call out danger. There is no one to follow. There are no markers. There is no reliable path. There is no one to toss you a heal or a res, or to say, well, better luck next time, because when you die, it's game over. That's it. You start back all the way from level 1, and you've got nobody to blame but yourself. So with something like that, you'll either get hooked on the challenge and do it, or you'll be like, you know what, maybe group content isn't all that bad. On this channel, I am often trying to give shy people a little push, right? Like, I'm always telling people, at least try to dip your toes into group content. Maybe check out an FC, maybe join a static, to step out of your comfort zone just a little bit and try to meet some people. Because for me, my best memories in MMOs have always been times where there were other people around. There's people celebrating a big boss kill, or just visiting a friend's in-game house, or having birthday parties in Costa del Sol during the Moonfire Fair Festival. Like, I know from my experience how much other players enrich the game, but other people who don't have that experience, they don't know. And you don't want the idea that it's mandatory to put some people off from even getting in the door, right? They think that, oh, well, it's an MMO, so by nature, it's going to have a ton of social pressure and obligation. But 14 really isn't that. And I think these are stereotypes that the genre needs to evolve beyond. And I think having these solo options for the story, I think in the story experience, it is appropriate just for that. I think that's a way to do that and sort of evolve and grow to accommodate more people. Like, already Final Fantasy 14 is a game that you can take at your own pace with minimal pressure from other people. And, not to be grim or anything, but I do think that making this game fully soloable will preserve its story to be accessible easily many, 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 many years from now. I guess another piece of advice I could share for players who are still extremely hesitant about touching multiplayer content at all, and you really only want to do this solo through the story, is maybe wait until around 6.4 to 6.5 when most of the main story quests should be soloable by then. Or you can wait till 7.0 is on the horizon, and then you can try to get caught up just in time for the new expansion, or wait until just after the new expansion's release. I also, again, want to emphasize, I've said it a few times, but it bears repeating. I've had to make this very, very clear, is that it's just the main story quest content that they want to make soloable, that will be soloable. And all the other content, all the other stuff, all the side content will all remain part of the MMO experience. So all the stuff that you end up actually doing with a group at max level when you're done with the story, that's what you end up spending the majority of your time on when you're finished with the story. All that's going to remain the way it is now. They're definitely not going to add AI bots to help you through extreme trials or ultimate raids. Do not worry, that is never happening. Do you know anyone that is hesitant to try Final Fantasy 14 at all because of the fact that it's a multiplayer game? Or like, have you been one of those people and then you gave it a try and then you found out that maybe the multiplayer element was fun or not as bad as you expected, or maybe you had a bad experience? I don't know. I actually would really like to hear from you and your experiences in the comment section down below. Let me know how you feel about them making the main story quest fully soloable. I personally very positive about that. I would like as many people as possible to experience this game's story. I really do. But again, just let me know in the comment section down below. If you like this video, please consider supporting the channel on Patreon or on Twitch. I wanted to also say this is my last video here in this apartment where I have been temporarily in Portugal. We can say goodbye to fire extinguisher and we're gonna move on to France. I'll be in France for 3 months while I sort out documents and I guess go to US. So trying to figure out where to go from here after my life was turned completely upside down by the war in Ukraine. Yeah, it's wild. This weekend I'm going to be getting on the road, so I don't know how much extra editing I'm going to be able to do for this video, but I wanted to at least get it finished before I start packing up and everything. So I don't need to go on a whole tangent about this. I just want to give you a little information about how this is going to be the last video with whole fire extinguisher. You can also support the channel for free just by clicking the subscribe button or by sharing this video with your fellow Warriors of Light, or maybe people who want to play the game but they're a little hesitant. I sure hope that they will give it a try. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!